Y'all ready to blaze away or what?
Over the last couple of days, I've been on a rampage, ranting non-stop in every video. Not intentionally, but because I just am very disappointed with what Bandai Namco is currently doing, inside of Tekken 8 and outside of Tekken 8. But also I think I went a little bit too far. Some comments in the past videos like Moonthought, you're being negative, stop ranting and raving and just going on and on and on. And all of this chaos kind of made me think back to Tekken 7. When Fakaram came out, Kunimitsu were coming out, I was doing videos at the time, right? I had literally less than 1,000 subscribers. When Lydia released this, when I hit 1,000 subscribers, so everything before that was so insignificant. But I remember during that era, I was just so frustrated with Tekken 7, the balancing of the game. At that point in time, I felt Yoshimitsu was such a trash character and he was not being balanced. And then every updated character like Brian Fury would get buffed, and I was like, why would they keep buffing him? Why did they keep buffing Paul Phoenix? And I was just so blinded by all of it, and every video I used to turn out was just anger after anger after anger. I mean, whether it's justified or not, because a lot of people were saying it's justified. What Bandai Namco is doing is wrong. And even if I feel that way, is that what I want to portray? Is that what I want to put out there? This is the questions I was asking myself now and back then. And back then, the escape, right? Because I was sick of talking about balancing and the direction of the game. And what I did then was I shifted towards talking about the characters' stories, because that stuff was largely unknown to me. And I really spent, like, I have a Tekken Lore Explained playlist. If you go through there, I really went character by character and just tried to learn everything that I could. Some of those videos are really trash the farther back you go, but it was more so to escape the chaos that was Tekken 7, the balancing of it. And now we find ourselves in that same situation with Tekken 8, right? Not only, so some people, they say they're having a lot of fun with the game, and I will admit and agree that the game is like a lot of fun, right? But I do think the way the developers are trying to force people to be aggressive, and they're killing all other aspects of the game. Killing, I use that word specifically because that's how it feels. Them not allowing Yoshimitsu to heal and things of that sort just kind of shows how they are forcing the player to attack. And I feel like that kind of environment, especially in Tekken, which always was kind of like a defensive footsies kind of game, it really just, you feel it so much in Tekken 8. And I think that them also not deciding to balance the game until after Evo Japan, but also delaying Evo Japan like 4 months, it was a very interesting thing because one, I think it changed what players are looking forward to with Evo Japan. When everyone thought Evo Japan was sooner, we just wanted to see the game be played by professionals. The Knee versus Arslan arc continue. We just wanted to see the best players on the planet play the game. But now it's kind of shifting because we have so much time with the game. There's other tournaments that's going on and already happened. Knee and Arslan already did a first to 10. Knee came out on top. So we kind of already seen that element of it. And now all that's left is like to see how the game will actually play out. And as we experience it day to day in our own lives, we run up against, busted characters, Dragunov, Azazina King, Fang, Jun Kazama, Zhao Yu. Some people even say Yoshimitsu, Nina, Lily, Claudio. There's a lot of them, right? So the point is, we're all sitting back waiting for Evo Japan because we feel like it's just a explosion waiting to happen. Will one of these unspoken bugs that we've been experiencing in our day-to-day lives show up in a tournament? These are all things that we're kind of just sitting back and watching. And every time the developers try to fix the game and then they don't, that just adds a little bit more salt on it. Because I really do think the deterioration of excitement is something to be studied. When Tekken 8, before Tekken 8 came out, everyone was so excited. Yes, Heat was something we really didn't know that much about, but people who experienced the game either in betas or alphas or early testing, we had really good things to say about the game. It felt faster, it felt funner, it felt more energetic. But as we are mastering the game, we see that that energy it really is turning into oppression is what I see a lot of people describing the game as. And it's kind of interesting, right? They want it to be aggression, and I kind of agree, right? So here's the thing. In Tekken 7, when everyone used to Korean backdash and wasted time, I myself found it boring. I was like, this is just like everyone's just backdashing and whiff punishing with either counter hit moves or like orbitals and stuff, and that's not fun, right? And I do agree that the developers should try to incentivize people to go on the aggressive, but I did not expect them to do it in a way that completely kills defense. I think defense is such an important part of the game, and I really didn't understand how much of a defensive player I was until those options were removed from the game in Tekken 8. And a lot of my frustration comes from how the game is structured, and I really want to see, like, I try to hold back a lot of my rage and fury, but not really, right? I be unloading it on, like, in the videos, right? So one, I want to see how it pans out for Tekken 8. I really do. Yes, a lot of people are having fun, but nonstop, because the reason why I mentioned Twitter a lot, people say, oh, you always talk about Twitter. You always talk about Twitter. And that's because that's where the developers are. When people say stuff there, that means it's reaching their eyeballs. So it's going to have a different impact if you're saying something on Facebook. No one's on Facebook, right? So it's just different where the conversation is happening and the developers seeing it. And I think that's why it's so interesting that everyone on Twitter is kind of saying the same thing, because I wonder if that will change the way the developers are perceived in the game. I think Tekken 8 is very exciting and fun, and they completed their goal of making it more exciting, right? That's why they made all of these changes. But I think they pushed it a little bit too far, and if they reel it back a little bit, I think they can have something fantastic with Tekken 8. But another thing that I want to say and talk about is, what's happening outside of the game. Outside of the game has been very disappointing as well, because we all are very familiar with the whole modding situation. I've been talking about it to death. That, and also the battle pass and the shop and all of that stuff, it takes away from what Tekken was and kind of is, at least in our brains, right? It adds a lot of stuff that is unnecessary. There was a comment, FedEx posted a comment to his Twitter, and it gave a pretty good explanation as to why all of this stuff is happening. It may not be true, but it just put the pieces together perfectly. So I'll just try to go off of it from memory. Basically, it said that there's a game called Blue Protocol that was a massive flop in Japan, and that was Bandai Namco's game, which was going to be like a Genshin Impact clone. And since that game flopped so closely to Tekken 8's release, Bandai Namco is now putting pressure on Harada to make that money back, which the reason why I brought up the quote that from Harada, where he was saying that the developers are only interested in milking the game, it kind of makes sense. Like, even though people said I was twisting his word, it kind of makes sense that, like, we see all the stuff that's in the game now, and then also when you combine that flop of a game, it would make sense that they want to make that money back. But then here's the point. The fact that Bandai Namco flipped that switch so suddenly, and now I'm still paraphrasing the comment, but basically it said that since the Bandai Namco developers flipped that switch so suddenly, the Tekken developers had to take a lot of stuff out of the game, items and stuff that was probably going to be in the game at launch. They had to remove a lot of that stuff and then start fracturing it in this battle pass format, right? Because the customization items is very lackluster, and now we see why. And then also on the flip side of it, when you talk about balancing, they probably would have been focusing on balancing and fixing the game and this and that, because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I did hear them say that they were going to do the big update before Evo Japan, which is why they delayed the game. But now they're saying they're going to do it after, and I think it's because they're trying to meet Bandai Namco's expectations, and they're having to jump through all of these different hoops, and they can't help but to look back and watch everything burn, Now, this is kind of my own words. The reason why I think that comment makes sense is because it does make sense. Like, for Harada and Michael Murray to be this way all of a sudden is very strange. And also it seems like they're unprepared to deal with all of the things that Tekken 8 is throwing at them. Pluggers, unbalanced game, and then also the shop is very bare bones.